Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Welcome, dear friends, to Kardec Radio and the Spirit side of Virginia. Here we are in one more Friday Inspirational Talk. We are here to learn more with Kardec. We're dedicating 2020 every Friday. You're going to be with us in a journey with Kardec. Allan Kardec, who since 1857 has published books, and he published for 12 years, including the magazine, books that have been changing lives. And we know he still lives in the spiritual realm and cares for all of us. And Kardec wrote not only the Spirit's book, but the Medium's book. In 1861, he published it, and today we're going to dedicate this program to knowing somewhat about the first chapters. It's about our spiritual nature. But before we begin, let us then together welcome our friends who are here, Paloma, Carol Correa, and Luciana. We're here together with you, saying hi and embracing each and every one of you. Friends, let us begin with Paloma reading for us a message, followed by the prayer.
We're going to read a message from the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life by Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico. And it's chapter 13. What is the flesh? If we live in spirit, let us also walk in spirit. Paul. When talking about spirituality, people often complain about the demands of the flesh. It is true that the apostles often spoke about the lusts of the flesh, its criminal impulses, and its noxious desires. We too often feel the need to use symbols in order to make the lessons of the gospel more accessible. The Master himself said that the spirit as the divine element is strong, but the flesh as its human expression is weak. But what is the flesh after all? Each spiritual personality has a fluidic body. Have you never noticed that flesh is composed of condensed fluids? Of course, when these fluids combine, they obey the imperatives of life on earth. You have designated this process as the law of heredity. However, this combining process is passive and is not self-determining. We may portray it as an earthly home where the spirit is in command, a dwelling which will take on the good or bad characteristics of its owner. Whenever we speak about the sins of the flesh, we might translate this expression as entailing the wrongs caused by the unevolved condition of the spiritual human being on the planet. Undignified desires, depressing impulses, ingratitude, bad faith, and the marks of betrayal are never the result of the flesh per se. It is essential that people understand the need for self-control and that they awaken their faculties of self-discipline and renewal in Jesus Christ. One of the biggest absurdities that some disciples commit is to attribute responsibility for humankind's crimes and errors to the mass of passive cells that serve the human being, when we know that everything proceeds from the Spirit.
Thank you, Paloma, for this beautiful message by Emmanuel. And we invite everyone to join us in a prayer. Let us pray, thinking of the people who are working hard, day and night, in the front lines. Let us also think of the people who are discarnating due to the coronavirus. In the United States alone, it's more than 4,000 people a day. We need to be very conscientious. It's time for us to be thoughtful, caring, compassionate. Let us dedicate this prayer to those who are departing away from their loved ones, those who are working hard under very, very tight garments and masks, tired, and also need a break. So we'd like to invite everyone to join us in a prayer of kindness, a prayer of healing. Let us hear the sound of our communication with God, nothing else. Dear God, at this moment we feel the universe is our home. And we ask you, why do we get attached to this temporary setting? What an illusion. So tonight, we want to cherish our spiritual nature, hoping that we can bring this practice to our daily lives. Feeling the universe and the universal family as all we have. Much more than the restricted and limited conditions we live in this incarnation, though blessed. And we visualize rays of healing light enveloping all of us, and especially those who are departing at this hour or who have departed recently. Since the pandemic, the mass of people who have crossed over, oftentimes without saying goodbye to their loved ones, or organizing their emotions. We pray for those who cared for them, for caregivers, healthcare providers around the world. May they feel strong. May they feel that your love is enveloping them in renewal, endurance, resilience, optimism. And we now visualize the day in which we as humanity on earth have overcome this battle with our own selves, that we have visualized the best of us, and we feel it and we be it. May this hour be truly therapeutic for all of us. May our homes be permeated by your molecules of healing, and those who are in need of help be rescued. May everyone who has their names in the book of prayer, may they receive the help that they need. Certain of your guidance and protection, we are grateful for your permission so we can do this study session with you, for you, in your name and love, and so be it. Friends, we begin today together a journey, but Kardec is the center of it all. So we're going to always go back to the Spirit's book before anything else. So Luciana today is going to lead us into a question of the Spirit's book. Let us enjoy this moment with Luciana.
Hello, friends. We are back with the Kardec's moment. And as we study all the teachings of Kardec, let us, as we pray, rejoice to being so grateful to have the teachings of Kardec in hand and to be alive, to be here, helping us and helping the other ones that are disincarnated. And today is very special because we're talking about our nature, right? And the Kardec question today comes and tell us about something that is very close to us in our nature as well. So the question is 917. And Kardec asked the spirits, by what means can selfishness be destroyed? This is something that happens to us all the time. We always have a little bit of selfishness in us. We work, we come to the spiritual center. We are always trying to get rid of this, right? We are always trying to be better in being less selfish. And here the book comes and say, of all human imperfections, the most difficult to uproot is selfishness, because it is connected to the influence of matter. And since we are reincarnated, we are very close to the matter, right? From which human beings is still so close to their origin, cannot free themselves. So it's very hard to us. And it's very good to us to hear that Kardec also asked this, because this is coming with us through the beginning, right? Is a human, is in our human nature. So we need to work on it and put a lot of dedication, a lot of discipline in order to take away or shut it down a little bit, put it lower, but it's really difficult. And Kardec continues, selfishness will be the weakened with the predominance of the moral life over the material life. So we need to work in our morals, right? We need to put it away, decide all these matters, right? We are here incarnated. We already learned in the center that we reincarnate to learn how to be less materialized, to be connected to the matter. So this is why we are here. So this is one lesson, one thing that we need to work on in this hour, in this reincarnation. And he continues, and especially with the understanding that Spiritism gives you concerning your true future state, which is no longer destroyed by allegorical fictions. So we know, as we come and we study together Kardec's teachings, we know that we are eternal beings, that we are spirit, and we are here having this experience in order for us to progress. And one day, when our moral will be more strong, it will more in our hearts, right, into our spirit, we will be able to get rid of this selfishness. And today, as we continue to study more about Kardec teachings, we will learn a lot more about becoming less selfishness and think about more of this spiritual life and who we really are, right? A living spirit having this experience in the material world. So now we'll continue our talk.
Thank you, Luciana. And we're going to begin by sharing with everybody. We're going to share a little bit here with everyone. Just as we today are studying about our spiritual nature, Luciana was reminding us about in our spiritual nature, we are divine. That's why we should allow the flow of life to go through us. When we restrict it, selfishness and pride, we're going against the flow of God. So let us understand about our spiritual nature. First question for all of us: where are we getting these teachings from? Basically, but not only, the Medium's book by Kardec today. But not only. You also see a beautiful piece from the book In the Domains of Mediumship by Andrea Lewis. This is a new decade for us, and that's why we're studying this. Kardec Radio is celebrating 10 years this year, and we're going back to the roots every Friday, bringing bits and pieces of all the works of Kardec, so we never forget that this is the foundation for us. Every Friday. For those who want to join us in February, we're also going to study Leon Denis' chapters in the book After Death, especially about the pathway to happiness. And there's no needed registration. There's just this link. You can go to the website ssvirginia.org to know more information about this. Today, we're going to focus on who we are. Who are we? If I look at myself in the mirror, I'm deceived by what I'm seeing in the physical body, because this is not me. It's like clothes. They don't define us. They don't. And the physical body doesn't define us either. But do we feel ourselves as spirits? Usually we don't. Usually we don't. If rarely we do. We often think that we are the physical body, the temporary personality we are creating, the things we're connected to, the family we're connected to, and it's much more than that. When we go to the Medium's book by Kardec, in the very first chapter, he titles, Are There Spirits? Because many people, they are sometimes confused. Some people say, yeah, I believe in the afterlife. There are ghosts. People who die become ghosts. Do we become ghosts? What is a ghost? So it's interesting because in the Medium's book, Kardec begins, and I'm going to quote just one sentence before we go on to understanding more. At the very beginning of this chapter, he begins chapter 1 by saying, the cause of doubt regarding the existence of spirits is due primarily to ignorance of their true nature. Spirits are usually imagined to have been created as a separate class of beings whose existence has not yet been proven. That's so interesting. Kardec is so logical, and we praise his rationale to bring to us who we truly are. Because when we ask, are there spirits, we are asking, am I a spirit? Because spirits are not a separate class. We are spirits, and that's what we start seeing. As he says in the first chapter, when we think about the existence of spirits, we're talking about the existence of our soul, our very existence. When people say, Vanessa, I'm so afraid of spirits, are you afraid of yourself? Because you are spirit living on earth, incarnated. No difference. Spirits and souls. What is the difference? So let's talk about the existence of the soul, your existence, my existence. The existence of the soul is different than that of the body, Kardec says, for sure. The other day, I was bringing Virginia for a well visit to the doctor. And she was like, oh, I don't want to receive any shot. And I said, Virginia, remember, you're spirit, and this is your body. This is your body. It's not you. When it's pinched, it's not you. It's your body, but it's not you. So tell your body, it's okay. When we receive a shot, vaccination, We spiritists are pro-vaccination. Why? Because it's progress. It's God granting us the opportunity of not incurring into a sickness because we're creating our own immunity. It's wonderful. It's preventative. So it's a blessing. So we can teach our children the blessings of being vaccinated, being at peace with it, because it's not vaccinating you, the spirit, it's vaccinating the body. So we have a body. Some people say, do I have a soul? I am a soul, and I have a physical body. And the soul possesses its own consciousness. And it's subjected to happiness or suffering. The same for spirits. When we are out of the body, we still have consciousness, and we're still subject to feeling happy, joyful, or sad, depressed. So depression is not a thing of the body. That's why many antidepressants do not work, because it's a thing of the spirit that influences the body through the perispirit. That's why taking medication alone without psychotherapy, without a good diet, exercise, is not 100% effective. Because we are the spirits connected to the body and commanding it. So, spirits are, Kardec says in the Medium's book, chapter 1, human souls that have been freed of the physical body. So, what is a spirit? What is a soul? The same. The only difference is that for us, in the spiritist science, we say when a spirit is incarnated, we name it soul. Without being incarnated, it's spirit. There is no ghost. No ghost. When you discarnate, when I discarnate, we don't disappear. We don't lose consciousness. We don't stop suffering. We don't become happy either. We continue being who we are. This is very important for us. It changes the way we feel about ourselves, and it changes the way we are in our relationships. Because we are in a relationship soul to soul, not body to body. When I am attracted to somebody, people may say, oh, but I'm attracted just to the body. Some people tell me that. Oh, Vanessa, I got married to that person because, she is the ideal woman for me, the beauty that I always imagine. But, we don't actually connect. That person doesn't know anything what they're talking about. Because we're never just connected because of the physical body. The physical body is just an excuse. There's more to that. Give an example, very primal example. When an animal is in need of food and you present food, it's not the food that is creating the hunger. The hunger itself is connecting to it. There is an inbuilt system that drives us to seek food. There is something else that connects us to that soul or to that spirit. If we go to the book And Life Goes On by Andrea Lewis, we're going to see the case of a woman who kept being infatuated by a man who discarnated. Since he doesn't know anybody who likes him, he's attracted by her. And then they start having a relationship that makes her sick. That symbiotic relationship doesn't end up well. But the attraction they have for one another is beyond the physical body. The attraction we have for one another is beyond the physical body. We just need to know more of ourselves and understand what is beyond. The same for us as parents. Now we're going to open just a little bit of a discussion. I'm just going to pause here as we talk a little bit about how important it is for us to feel as spirits. When we have a child at home, that child is just a body, but the spirit is millennial. So it's very important for us to think that we are here educating, as parents, educating a millennial spirit. And we need to be very aware and attentive to the tendencies, as Kardec says in the Spirit's book, the instinctive tendencies of this child in the first years of life. The scholars in Spiritism clearly state that in the first 7 years of life is when we can truly educate that spirit. So parents need to pay close attention to their children. And when we study psychology and neuroscience, we get to know that the emotional life is learned in the first 3 years of life. So when we see parents nowadays sending their kids to daycare as babies, infants, thinking, babies, all they need is food and changing diapers and sleep. I don't need to be there all day long. They make a big mistake. Because that's when, before the child speaks, that we have the greatest opportunity of imprinting in their very, very plastic nervous system a new set of principles, vibrations, feelings. And it's a shame that people don't know of it, because then they miss the critical window of opportunity, which is the same as of vulnerability, as we say in science, that can change the course of events of this child for the rest of their lives. And when we see parents being so permissive, as an educator said today, and we were listening to this Brazilian Spiritist podcast, and we're going to make sure that we bring this information to everyone in English very soon. She said, Ana Maria Pereira is her name. She said very wisely that it is in this very first years that we're going to be able to define much of what is going to happen later in life. If parents just knew it. That's why, again, we bring the attention of everybody to the app that was recently released by Kardec Radio and the Spirit Side of Virginia. Spirit is Parenting. If people don't know of it, it's an opportunity to go to the App Store or to the Google Play Store and download it for free. Play Store? Yeah, Virginia? Yeah. Thank you, Play Store. In Android. So we can download the app and be informed about how to be a parent under the Spiritist perspective. None of us are perfect, but at least we're trying. And it's impossible to go through this route without looking at that child as a spirit. That child, as Ana Maria Pereira said, that child cannot spend childhood in the playground all day long. The biggest mistake that parents make is by thinking that they need to allow their children to play all day long, because they're children. Let them play, because when they become adults, come on, life is tough. And then we're not preparing them for the toughness of life, because we're creating the generation that we see nowadays. When we squeeze a little bit, they're depressed or anxious. They cannot handle it because it's the Disneyland generation. Parents are not here to entertain their children. As Mentor Joseph said often to me since Virginia was a baby, Vanessa, you're not here to entertain your child. Your child is here to learn from you. If you have to wash the dishes, you wash the dishes. And they watch. If they can't join in and help yet. And if you have to swipe the floor, you do it. If you have to vacuum, if you have to do the laundry, if you have to work, they have to sit and wait. Why? Because that's life. That's life. Of course, they have room to play, but they are not here to be entertained. And that's probably a big relief to parents, because at the end of the day, we are spirits, and we didn't reincarnate to go through a life of play dates. We're here to work for God. Some people ask me, what are we here for? Not for us. How come, Vanessa? No, we are children of God, created by God. We're here to do what He wants because He created us. Don't blame me. Don't shoot the messenger, because God created us to fulfill His will. And what is His will? Certainly not to fulfill our will, but that we learn His will. And it takes probably many reincarnations for us to get in sync with what God wants from us as spirits. So today, as we're going to go on, Carol Correa is going to join us now and continue this conversation from the perspective of not only mediumship, but feeling ourselves as spirits. Because mediumship is just the, let's say, the ultimate manifestation showing to us that we're not in the physical body only. Right, Carol?
Right, Vanessa. Thank you so much for this beautiful introduction. Let us then continue understanding our spiritual nature, because as we see ourselves as spirits, dear friends, we are invited by God, our Creator, to adopt a divine paradigm through which to guide our lives. So let us consider this invitation from God an ultimate New Year resolution for us, to look at ourselves in the mirror every day and remind ourselves, we are immortal spirits. Everyone with whom we interact is also an immortal spirit and a child of God. And let us allow these guideposts to inform our relationships, because this is the way through which we begin living a God-centered life. Of course, we have eternity to continue progressing and learning, but we who hold the light of Spiritism in our hands have the opportunity to start doing so now. And this is why the spirit mentors of the Spiritist Society of Virginia and Kardec Radio have invited us all to study a particular item of the Medium's book by Allan Kardec. And that item is item 14 of chapter 2 for everyone's reference. The reason they have asked us to dissect this item together is because this is an item in which Kardec presents guideposts that will, not only at this moment, but for many lifetimes to come, illuminate our eternal spirits. So let us begin allowing Kardec to educate us. We are going to refer henceforth to Kardec's direct words as we break the guideposts presented by Kardec down together. So let us begin, dear friends. We will begin our study of Kardec's actual teachings by discussing the fundamental spiritist principles that Kardec presents to all of us. The first one, as Vanessa has already mentioned, is the existence of the soul. What does that imply? That we survive the death of the body as well as we pre-existed. And thus we have the ability to manifest ourselves when we are outside of the body. And that is nothing extraordinary about this. This is just the continuation of life as God wishes it to be. But what are the implications of these guideposts? Let us feel these teachings, the scriptures. Let us bring it to our hearts. As we are talking about parenting, what does the existence of the soul imply to us? That when a particular woman becomes pregnant, begins gestating a body, the body is not just a conjunction of cells, however blessed the conjunction of cells may be. The body is more than that. The body is a sacred vessel through which the reincarnating spirit will manifest itself. Without the sacred instrument, the spirit cannot reincarnate. So the body is the most sacred and the first most sacred divine instrument given to us by God. This is why we are pro-life in accordance to the Spiritist science and understanding of life, because we know that that body information is more than just the body. It is the gateway through which that incarnating spirit can embark upon a life transformative experience. And in the book Missionaries of the Light, by the Spirit André Luiz through Chico Xavier, we learn more about the sacredness of gestation. We see the process through which engineers from above, from the on high, plan every cell in the body of a reincarnating spirit named Segismundo. And we see how carefully and surgically, with precision, the medical doctors from the beyond allow the conjunction of cells to begin to form. They actually select the matrix of the male cell and the female cell that join together. And they watch over that forming physical vest for the first 2 months because of how sacred the spirit is. Then we see, as Vanessa mentioned, that once the spirit actually reincarnates, when they are born within their physical vest, we already know from the Spiritist science that that spirit is millennial, as Vanessa mentioned. This is why St. Augustine, in chapter 14 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, item 9, reminds all of us that the number one most sacred mission of all parents is to guide that spirit to God. So as Vanessa mentioned, and we reinforce, are we here to entertain our children, to give them the opportunity to do whatever they want, because after all, they're too young for responsibilities? No, we are meant to educate that soul to acquire eternal virtues. St. Augustine tells that we shall study the tendencies of that spirit, that soul, excuse us, and then cut their tendencies, their bad tendencies away as if we were cutting weeds from a garden. And St. Augustine reminds us that we as parents, as educators, are responsible for that spirit's chances to succeed in a reincarnation. And our responsibility begins when they are very young. St. Augustine even recommends that we speak to that soul from spirit to spirit. He has an exercise where he tells us that even when the physical body is asleep at rest, we can take advantage of that moment to speak to that soul, spirit to spirit. Professor Euripides Bassanufo also invites us to look into the eyes of a child and not see the adorable physical body that is developing and think of their innocence alone. Professor Euripides Bassanufo asks us to talk to that spirit from spirit to spirit, that soul from spirit to spirit, and remind them you are reincarnated to serve God. You are reincarnated to succeed not in what you wish to do, but in fulfilling God's will. God has asked you to reincarnate to help His will be done. How can you help God today? This is how we speak to the soul of a child. And how do we know that that's important? Because we survive that one existence, because we continue progressing, and there's nothing extraordinary. It's the law of progress. And it's a law of nature as well. So Kardec continues inviting us for a serious, in-depth study of the Spiritist principles. He invites us to look beyond the mediumistic phenomena, as Vanessa already mentioned, because Spiritism presents us with a series of ethical laws, ethical moral laws, explaining to us that everything in the universe is subject to the laws of cause and effect, and that our actions have moral consequences. So going back to parenthood, as we were listening to Ana Maria Pereira earlier today, she gave an example to illustrate the importance of parents paying attention to their children's immortal tendencies. She invited us to observe the following scenario. If we see a 2-year-old child in that tender, adorable physical body playing ball with us, and the child throws that little ball, and then the child doesn't want to pick it up at all, and at that tender age already asked us to pick it up for them, that illustrates a tendency, showcases a tendency of that incarnating soul, the tendency to be served, the tendency to not be an active participant in their own lives, the tendency to have their will be done first, the tendency to be selfish, the tendency to be self-centered. And then one may argue, but aren't all children self-centered? No, they can have that tendency, but here's where parents come in. Parents are also incarnating souls that made the commitment to be responsible for that spirit's evolution. And how they educate that soul has moral consequences. So it's up to us to cut that tendency by the root. The same if we are educators. It is our job to cooperate with that soul's progress for immortality as well. And the more we study Spiritism as a science and philosophy, as Kardec poses, the more we are empowered to make wise choices for ourselves and others. And Kardec then goes on to explain to us that if we wish to criticize the proposals presented by the Spiritist science and philosophy, we shall only consider the critics who have studied the whole matter, who have delved into it with the patience and perseverance of a conscious observer, who have as much understanding of the subject as the most enlightened adherent, who have not acquired their understanding via literary science fiction. Some may, for example, argue with Spiritist principles of progress, posing the fact that they believe that if we have already reincarnated in the body of a human being, we can go back in another incarnation as an animal or a plant. That shows that that person may have acquired understanding through science fiction alone, but has not seriously studied the principles of Spiritism, because in Spiritism as a science, we learn that through the law of progress, we never regress. We always progress. So we don't go backwards as spirits. We always move forward. And then Kardec also tells us that we should not allow ourselves to oppose facts with which we are unfamiliar. And of course, Kardec proposes this guideposts because he followed them himself. And if we wish to understand a little bit more of how seriously Kardec studied these principles as a scientist and as a researcher, as a renowned educator of his time, we can watch a recent movie that was made of his life that showcases the seriousness with which he codified the Spiritist science and philosophy. And with that, we invite our dear Paloma to continue helping us understand our spiritual nature further.
Thank you, Carol. We are now going to look for an example. As we were just understanding, our origin. We know we are spirits, incarnated sometimes we're back in the spiritual world. So it's just where we find ourselves. But why is this important? And we need to reflect on this because it changes how we see life. And it changes how we can be assisted. If right now we're sitting here and we can only think of ourselves in this, zone, we need to switch that. We just learned that. There are two realms and we're always surrounded by it. We are immersed in it. There are good spirits with us. There are doctors and nurses assisting us. And André Luiz is going to show to us, as he does in so many books, but for today, we're going to focus in the realms of a mediumship, and it's just a small part of the book for you to go find the book and read it. So let us go and visualize what it is to be in these two realms. So in the book, in the realms of mediumship or in the domains of mediumship, we find explanations of how this mediumship phenomena happens. So there's lots of examples. Today, we're going to be focused on a meeting, just like we have at the Spiritist Center, mediumistic meeting, in which there was going to be materialization. And materialization is actually when we can see something from the spiritual world come alive before our eyes. It's visible. And in a parenthesis here, we have stories of, Chico Xavier and his abilities as mediumship, materialization being one of them. So powerful. But of course, we know his biggest materialization phenomena are the books, don't we? So let us continue. In mediumistic meetings, there's a lot of preparation. A lot of preparation, as it's depicted on this picture. There are teams from the spiritual world that are in the room, and there are teams dedicated to helping with the mediums. But it also requires preparation from the incarnate spirits. Yes, it does. Everybody has their responsibility. So the medium in this case, he's the one laying down, he's preparing himself, resting, allowing this moment to be dedicated to the preparation for the meeting. So important. And while that's happening, we can see the good spirits setting up equipments. These equipments, they're going to be emitting healing rays at the same time that it cleanses the room. And it's interesting that André Luiz says that it's like antibacterial. In this world that we're thinking of coronavirus and disinfecting everything and cleaning and wiping, the good spirits they do it too. Cleaning, hygiene, so important. And André Luiz tells us that unfortunately, this is really, really unfortunate, that the incarnates don't take their responsibility very seriously. And this is really interesting because we're here, we are part of a meeting, and our minds are going somewhere, and we're kind of having negative thoughts. We're carrying this, and we bring these thoughts to the room, and instead of helping with positive vibrations, we're actually being toxic. And on top of that, our daily habits impact all of this. Our vices, smoking, drinking, eating too much, or eating meat. It's too heavy for a mediumistic meeting. It impacts the service. So this is for us to think, because as part of, all of us being part of teams, of collaboration, we have a responsibility. We are teaming up in two realms. We are spirits. It's not just this body. This body, it's not us. We are spirits. And it's so beautiful how the spirits bring to us this story so we can visualize how it happens. And in this specific part, they start describing how it works with the medium. How much of the support to the medium is done from the spiritual realm, helping its digestive system, circulation, even its organs, the internal organs. Why is that? It's because the type of work is hard. It takes a toll on the body. It takes a lot of energy. And the good spirits know, they come and they help prepare. So the lights are off. They're in preparation for the meeting. The prayer is done. And the incarnate spirits that are there, to help support the meeting. They start singing, helping, balance the vibrations, while the good spirit starts working with energy from everything, from things, from the incarnates that are sitting there, even from nature that is around the area. So they get all this energy, ectoplasm, and we can see here that there's a lot of ectoplasm coming from the medium, coming from his nose, ears, fingers, chest. And this ectoplasm starts being accumulated, and it's going to be used for materialization to happen and healing to be able to be done on that evening. Don't we all want healing? So we need to pay attention to our vibrations. Are the good spirits going to be able to use our ectoplasm to help with some healing? Let us think. So this fluidic mass, the ectoplasm that it was aggregating, was growing. And for us to think, this is made out of 3 essential elements. As we said, we have energies that come from the spiritual world. We have fluids that were coming from the medium, as we visualized, and the other incarnates sitting there, and fluids from nature. Energies from the spiritual world and from nature are pure energy. Now, the fluids coming from the incarnate can be trouble. And instead of helping, as we said before, it can really, delay the treatment or even stop it just because of the quality of our fluids. But if we were prepared and we were contributing, André Luiz says that these materializations could take sublime characteristics. Rare, but it can happen. In this specific case, the incarnates didn't help. They came in with emanations and thoughts that were not really helpful. And they could only get the nurse to come and help treat the sick ladies that were brought in for that healing. And we can see that the nurse applied really healing rays and was there, but the plans were much bigger for that evening, but they couldn't do it. And even so, the good spirits are so great that at the end of the healing session, one of the workers of the spiritual realm gathered some of these energies and materialized flowers, giving to the incarnate spirits, the very ones that came in unprepared, to help them calm their excited minds. So sometimes we go to these meetings with different motives. Instead of focusing on the healing, on the supporting meeting, they were actually just there for maybe curiosity. And the good spirits took the opportunity to help calm them, relax. These excited minds wasn't what they were there for. Gave them the flowers. And at the end, to finalize, of course, after the session, the good spirits went back to the medium, applied calming passes, helping the medium come back, replenishing his physical body with purified ectoplasm. This ectoplasm we all have in us. It's not just mediums, we all have it. It is found between the dense matter, so body, and our perispirit. So this shows to us that all of us are spirits, not just the mediums that can see them or some other people, we all are spirits. And we are being invited to purify our fluids. We're being invited to think of our origin, understand how things happen in our body, and take ownership of it. The good spirits are with us, as we can see here. They are always protecting us, guiding us, and it's really, really in our hands to take advantage of this beautiful work and understanding what we're here for.
Thank you, Paloma, for this. A lot of reflections. Friends like Aline for Kim, thank you so much. She says, really interesting topics. I'd like to learn more about how to instruct children, kids through Spiritism view. As we explained here, people can go to Spiritist Parenting, the website, or the app to get to know more. And in February, Aline and other friends will be back to our Friday online lessons for children here at Kardec Radio. But you can go to the YouTube channel or Facebook page at Kardec Radio, and there's a playlist, Kardec Radio for Kids, where you're going to find many online lessons that our educators have already recorded and streamed here at Kardec Radio. So here we are. Today, it's all about who we truly are. One day, we won't be here incarnated any longer. It's tough to say it because we live a daily illusion. We don't yet know how to live a life as spirits. But tonight, we're being invited to live a new paradigm. The paradigm of the spirit, dedicating ourselves at least once a day to feeling what is it that would change in my life if I felt that I wouldn't be here any longer. What are the things that I'm attached to? Sometimes it's a title or physical beauty or to our personality, to our family, to our home, to our country. It's much more than that. We're spirits, and we are here temporarily. So what do we need to adjust? Plus, those who discarnated, they didn't disappear. For us who are living a pandemic, in the United States alone, thousands of lives are in discarnation daily. Deaths, discarnation. We're living at a time in which we're being called to realize who we truly are. So we're asking here, for those who are just looking at the temporary, the passing things, when we study mediumship, we're getting to know of who we truly are. Kardec was the most insightful, a true genius in the studies of spirit manifestation, because he was the only one who truly took it seriously and understood the implications of spirit manifestations. So whenever we study mediumship, we practice mediumship, at the end of the day, we know in Spiritism that it's all about who we are. Daniel Piani is here. Hello, dear friend. He is here asking a question. Dear friends, I have a question. The materializations are temporary, right? The rose in the example would disappear after session because ectoplasm is sensitive to light, correct? Yes. Yes, you are right. Everything is temporary. It is correct. It is temporary. Unless we have manifestations that happen in materials that are in the physical matter. So if you go to Rio de Janeiro, Daniel, there is a spiritist center named André Luiz, right, Carlos? In Tijuca, in the neighborhood Tijuca. And you're going to see they have, that Spiritist Center was co-founded by Chico Xavier and other friends. And a very renowned medium named Peixotinho used to do materializations there, spirit materializations. And some of those happened using wax. So you're going to find the very imprints of those materializations still there. But when it's ectoplasm alone, of course, it dissipates, right? So for us, one of the most important things now is to understand that people, when they discarnate, they don't disappear. I know even spiritists, and I want to bring this discussion here to our final moments in this study session. I know people who are spiritists and who have loved ones who departed, and they have a hard time feeling that they are still living. They say, I know they're still living, but it's never going to be the same. And then I ask, what do you mean it's never going to be the same? Yeah, they are never going to be here in matter. It's going to be better when you meet them, because did you know that in the afterlife, after you recover and you get to a certain level, you look even younger? Can you imagine? That's priceless, right? You look younger and you're youthful, you're rejuvenated. Who doesn't want that, right? Who doesn't? So, how do we know of this and feel it? That's the question we want to discuss a little bit here with Paloma, Carol, and Luciana. How do we do it?
It's a fascinating topic. Always, when we go deeper in Kardec's teachings, really showing to us that we need to learn to see life in two realms. And he's bringing to us scientific data. It's like what we're going through right now. We see scientific data, we don't want to believe it, but it's proof. We are in two places, and we need to get used to it. So that's why we're here. What do? We study and we read and we look at these images to help us visualize what it is, the life that we already know. It's not a surprise to us. We were already there, we came back and we go back and here. So it's not a surprise to us, but these kind images from Projeto Imagem help us visualize what is life in two realms. And if we stop fighting it, thinking we know it all, and we just read it, like what Carol brought up from Kardec, saying, if you want to contest and discuss this, let us do it, as long as you have studied it. Mm-hmm. So I think we're doing the right thing here, discussing, talking, thinking, trying to visualize so that we can really start perceiving life in two realms.
It's so interesting, Paloma, when you mention about studying, because sometimes people think that studying this doesn't make us feel different. But actually, the more we study it, the deeper we go into that, the more we will be able to feel it. And I think the Spiritist literature, as you said, brings an unprecedented understanding of who we truly are. The more we read these books, the more we study these books, the deeper we can feel it, because it shows to us the mechanisms of life in general, right?
Yeah.
Carol.
And Vanessa, and we learned from you as a neuroscientist that when we study, read, even our physiology changes, because we create new neural pathways in our brain, and because we are also multidimensional in nature, even our perispiritual brain changes. So the perspective through which we embrace life is truly transformed. This is why Kardec in the Spirit's book, when he asks the mentors on high, how shall we progress faster? Is there any way through which we incarnated souls can progress faster? And the spirit mentors are incredible because the answer is so concise and yet so profound. Their answer is yes. Instruct yourself, know thyself. But know thyself multidimensionally speaking. When they say know thyself, they don't just mean know your current personality. Study your true, and this is key here, true nature. We tend, as humanity, to try to run away from truth because we are still immature, emotionally speaking, as a whole. So it's quote unquote easier for us to fantasize, to live in a fantasy land. We would like to look for escapism. We are still used to looking for shortcuts because we have been doing so for millennia. But thank God for Spiritism because it brings the light of truth to us, not this temporary truth which we can contest in a battle of egos, but the immortal wisdom that shall really allow us to reach our divine essence and purpose in life. So this is why it's worth it for us to understand our spiritual nature, because we're going to take this understanding higher and higher as we progress, since our life, however permanent it may be, it's temporary, eternally speaking, and it is a school. And because it is a school, one of the main principles of it is for us to learn. And we would just like to make one more little remark, speaking of mediumistic phenomena and materialization. What is a gestation of a physical body rather than a process of materialization that is so sacred and that takes 9 months in the making? So we are blessed because we see materializations happening before our eyes, and we are materialized spirits ourselves, we who are visible and incarnated, connected to a physical vest. We are materialized spirits.
Yes, great insight. And that's why in Spiritism, we don't study mediumship as something that is outside of us. We're deeply into this. And Kardec was the first one to show to us that it's impossible to communicate with the spiritual realm without feeling that we're spirits too. Right, Luciana?
Right, and Kardec, being a scientist, right, in this area, he actually went through to organize all this teaching, all that was happening around him at that time, right? The materialization, the phenomena, and he so wisely put these books all together to help us to understand and really show to us that life goes on, that we come here having this experience in the material body, in the physical, but we are eternal beings, right? The Spirit of Truth tells us we are eternal beings and we keep living, having experience so we can progress and become better. And just like Kardec did, we can say nowadays we have those teachings and people that are coming with a near-death experience. And it's actually, I just watched yesterday, Surviving Death on Netflix. And it comes like bringing these children the remembrance of their past life and living their life. So you have like, oh, this is spiritual proof that we have through Kardec, through Spiritism, also bringing and waking up the scientists, trying to bring and trying to understand. But we are so grateful to Kardec and to having this doctrine that really helps and it show us the whole 90 yards, right? We know the truth, but you can see now new scholars, new scientists are learning and trying to make sense of all of these teachings that we have in hand.
Beautiful reminder. That's a good series to watch and to get acquainted with more of these topics. I see here, we see Sol Souza, so adorable. I want to say thank you to all. And while I'm alive, if I die today, I will continue to say thank you. Oh, so you're adorable. And John DeRose, thinking about death, hopefully more than once a day, helps us to imprint. We are spirits first and body second, while spiritism should be the only attachment that we carry into the afterlife. That's adorable. Thank you so much, John DeRosa, for sharing it with us. And now, friends, we know we have a lot more to study, but remember, one step at a time. Next week, we're going to continue, and there's always more throughout the week here at Kardec Radio. If you still have more questions, don't refrain from sending us your question to kardecradio@gmail.com. For now, we invite you to our therapeutic moment at the end of it all. Everything's therapeutic, but this is the wrap up. It's our spiritual passes and the prayer. We're all home, yes, and that's great because our homes become the extension of the Spiritist Center. We need to read the book Messengers, chapters 33 to 40, when we get to know through André Luiz the power of these meetings at home. How much the good spirits are counting on us to help many in our neighborhoods, in our cities, in our states. So let us use this moment for charitable purposes as well, not only for us, but for those who are connected to us, family, relatives, colleagues at work, neighbors, and many more that we don't know. Let us then use this time for the therapy of the soul and spirits. All right, Luciana is going to lead us into that.
So let us all close our eyes, breathing in and out and feeling the energies enveloping us, healing energies from our Master Jesus, the doctors and nurses from the spiritual realm that comes to each and every one of our houses, applying the remedies as we need it. Breathing in and out, we feel this warmth of this gold light showering on us. This healing light dissolves everything that is not helpful or helping us to progress in this reincarnation. And as these connections are cut, we feel lighter and lighter, and we are able to elevate ourselves closer to the Master Jesus. And we can vibrate in the same vibration as He does. And we feel so much joy in our hearts. We feel good. We feel blessed. And as we are here, feeling this loving and care, we share with everyone in our home, our family, our neighbors. We visualize our network of friends receiving these blessings. And as we together feel this love, we can see that our Master's love is so big, huge, that it can envelop the whole planet and the whole universal family is being blessed and healed in this moment. We feel that the energies of the whole planet has been restored, harmonized, and healed. And as we continue to soak in this love and receive the treatment, we would like to pray to all our brothers and sisters in greater need, especially our brothers and sisters working in hospitals, nursing homes, these frontliners that are working non-stop, day in, day out, trying to help as much as they can our brothers and sisters that are sick due to COVID or other illness. We pray for them, dear Father, so that they can continue to doing the work and don't lose sight of your love, of your care. And as they work, they are able to heal themselves and all of those that come to them to receive physical treatment. We also pray for all the families that have lost loved ones today, yesterday, this year or last year. Everyone that had a loved one transition to the spiritual realm, may they all feel in their hearts that they are alive and they are being taken care. And we pray so that they also feel these loving vibrations and are able to continue living in the best way possible, knowing that we are spirits and we are eternal. We pray, dear Father, for parents that has this great mission to help this new generation. And as we learn today, this is the greatest mission that we as incarnated beings can have in our hands. May we all as a society can help all the parents in the new generation. And dear Father, as we pray for the whole humanity, and trusting that you know everything that we need, everything that is necessary for us to grow and progress, we would like to ask permission to the mentors, to Master Jesus, our God, our Creator, to close this moment of healing, education to our body and our eternal soul. And so be it.
Thank you, Luciana. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Paloma. Thank you, friends. Thank you for joining us, for everyone whom we can see here. Daniel Pian, John DeRosa, Sol Souza, Ana Martins, Dulce, Flávia, Teresa Castro. We can see you here, friends. Aline, for joining us, and many more who have been connected. Don't forget, this is just the beginning. And this is about this book that we studied today, mostly, not only. And there is more ahead. As Paloma mentioned here, let's not forget, when we study it, we can certainly march towards feeling it, the deeper and deeper and deeper we go. Spiritism, as John DeRosa said, is so good that it's worthwhile being attached to it, because we can take it to immortality. Thank you, Fabiana Lavati, for being with us, Ana Martins, and we wish you many blessings, friends. And until next time.